She screamed that I was trespassing on HOA property. Clipboard in hand, red suit blazing under the morning sun, she ordered me to pack up my things and leave the cabin my father built with his own hands. What she didn't know, what made that whole scene poetic, was that the law she kept bragging about was already inside sipping tea by the window. My mother, a sitting judge. It started a few days earlier when I drove up the old gravel road that wound between tall pines and opened into the clearing by the lake. The cabin wasn't fancy weathered cedar siding, a porch that creaked like it was singing to the wind, but it was ours. My father built it long before anyone had ever heard of the Pinarest HOA. To me, it was sacred ground. Out here there were no bylaws about what color I could paint the door, no fines for grass growing an inch too high. Just air pine water and quiet. I thought I'd escaped the madness of suburban control, but I should have known better. People like Karen, the HOA president, never stay in their lane. Even before she showed up, I noticed signs. A black SUV parked too long at the end of the road. A drone hovering low over my roof. Faint voices arguing about property lines. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was safe here. But the thing about bullies is they always find you when you start to feel comfortable. The first time I saw Karen was years ago at a neighborhood barbecue. She didn't greet people, she inspected them. Every smile she gave was sharp, like she was measuring you for a box you didn't fit in. She had built her entire identity on enforcing order, her order. She fined people for leaving trash cans out an hour late, for having basketball hoops too close to the curb, even for using the wrong shade of beige. So when her SUV came barreling into my clearing that morning, I knew exactly who I was dealing with. She slammed her car door and stormed up my porch like she owned the place. "You're trespassing on HOA property," she shrieked, waving her clipboard like it was a sword. "Pack up your junk and leave now." I didn't move. Just sat there in my rocking chair, coffee in hand, letting her words bounce off the porch rails. Trespassing. On my own land. That's new. Her eyes narrowed. Don't get smart with me. This cabin violates multiple Pinarest HOA guidelines: no architectural approval, no driveway permit, no landscaping compliance. Shall I go on? I tilted my head. You can go on, but you'll still be wrong. This property's been here since before your HOA existed. Her lips twitched. We already voted. The board agrees this cabin has to go. I couldn't help it. I laughed. You voted? What's next? You all vote that the moon owes you dues. She turned red, clutching her clipboard so tight the papers wrinkled. You'll regret mocking the board. You'll be fined thousands, and if you don't pay, we'll place a lien on this property. Karen, I said, standing now, keeping my voice steady. You can't put a lien on land that doesn't fall under your jurisdiction. This cabin's outside your map. Your threats are just noise. For the first time she hesitated. I saw her confidence crack. Then she snapped back with venom. You think you're clever, I'll bring the law next time. She stomped off gravel, spraying from her heels, and I just stood there, calm on the outside but burning inside. She'd crossed a line. I looked through the cabin window and saw my mother's silhouette. She didn't say a word, just gave me that look only mothers have, the one that means, I saw everything and I'm already planning how to end it. I thought that would be it. A tantrum, a retreat. But Karen didn't know how to quit. 2 days later I heard the rumble of multiple engines. I stepped outside and saw 3 black pickup trucks with HOA security slapped on the doors in vinyl letters. I actually laughed. Out stepped Karen, red suit, sharp as ever, surrounded by men in matching polos and mirrored sunglasses. She shouted, "You've refused to comply. I've brought enforcement." I crossed my arms. What are you enforcing? The right to ruin someone's Saturday. The so-called guards flexed, trying to look intimidating. Karen raised her voice for the neighbors who were already gathering to watch. Everyone here can see this man is defying community law. This cabin will be demolished if necessary. The crowd murmured. Phones came out. A few laughs slipped through. Demolished, I said. What's your plan? Karen, send your polo shirt SWAT team after my chimney. Even her guards looked embarrassed. She spun on them, barking orders, then turned back to me, shouting, "You'll regret this. Next time I'll bring the sheriff himself." "Perfect," I said. "I'll have someone waiting too." She froze for half a second, clearly confused, then stormed off again, throwing dust in her wake. The neighbors clapped as she drove off. I exhaled tension, leaving me slow. But I knew she wasn't done. That night my mother and I sat at the old oak table my father had built. "She won't stop," Mom said, calm but firm. I know I sighed. "But this place, it's Dad's. It's ours. I can't let her erase that." Mom reached across the table, her hand steady. "Then don't. But remember, bullies like her always believe they're untouchable until the law reminds them otherwise." 2 mornings later, Karen showed up again. No guards this time, just paperwork. She marched up the steps, dropped a fat folder on my porch, and announced, "Official violation notices, legal citations." "You're done here." I flipped through one of the papers. Comic Sans. No statute numbers, no signatures. "Wow," I said. "Did you print these at Office Depot, or does the HOA have a deal with clip art?" The neighbors burst out laughing. Karen's face twisted. "Don't get smug. These documents are binding." I held up one sheet and read aloud, "Failure to vacate within 7 days will result in fines of $500 per day plus penalties for non-compliance." Then I pointed at the heading. "You spelled enforcement wrong." More laughter. Her hands shook as she flipped through her folder. "You think this is a joke? We can take your property if you refuse." "Karen," I said quietly, "you can print 1,000 fake laws, but they won't make you right. And one more thing, don't ever mention my family again." That made her pause. I could see uncertainty flicker behind her rage. But she shoved it down and spat. "When I bring law enforcement, you'll wish you'd listened." "Bring them," I said. "I encourage it." She didn't like that. She gathered her papers, stomped back to her SUV, and disappeared once more. That night the weight hit me. What if she really did get someone involved? What if they found some loophole? I sat on the porch long after sunset, listening to crickets and the lap of water against the dock, and for the first time I doubted myself. Maybe I was being stubborn. Maybe it wasn't worth the fight. I could sell the place, walk away, avoid the stress. But then I thought about my dad, how he'd built this cabin board by board, how his hands had shaped every nail, every wall. This wasn't just property, it was his legacy, and I couldn't let someone like Karen erase it because she liked control. Mom found me still sitting there. She handed me a folder. "These are the county maps," she said. "I pulled them this afternoon. The HOA's jurisdiction ends at mile marker 14. This cabin's at 17. They don't have a leg to stand on." I flipped through the documents, seeing the highlighted lines, the seals, the signatures. "You already built the case." Mom smiled faintly. "I'm a judge. I like to be prepared." From that moment on, the fear was gone. I wasn't waiting for a fight anymore, I was ready for it. The showdown came on a Saturday morning. It started with the sound of honking. I stepped outside and saw a convoy of cars pulling up my driveway, SUVs, sedans, even a minivan, all with laminated HOA board signs taped to their windows. The circus had arrived. Karen climbed out first, her red suit blazing, bullhorn in hand. "This is an illegal occupation," she yelled. "You are ordered to vacate immediately." I leaned on the porch railing, sipping my coffee. "Good morning to you too, Karen. Beautiful day for a coup, isn't it?" The neighbors were already gathered by the tree line, recording everything. Karen turned to them and shouted through the bullhorn, "This man is a trespasser. He's defying the law." I called back, "If I'm trespassing, then I guess my father's ghost is too, because he built this place long before your clipboard was born." She turned crimson, motioning to the board members behind her, half a dozen nervous-looking folks holding clipboards like shields. One man unrolled a glittery banner that said, "Protect property values." I nearly spit out my coffee. Karen screamed, "Vacate or face legal consequences." I walked down the steps slowly, eyes locked on hers. "Karen, you keep talking about the law, but you don't have the law. You have paper and glitter. You're not protecting property values, you're humiliating yourself." The crowd laughed. Someone shouted, "Tell her." Her voice cracked. "You think you're clever, but when the sheriff gets here, you'll be dragged out in handcuffs." "Go ahead," I said. "Call him. I'd love to have a chat." Her hand hovered over her phone. For the first time, she looked unsure. Then, before she could move, a sound cut through the tension. The screen door creaked open behind me. My mother stepped out. She wasn't wearing her robe, just a navy blazer and calm authority. Her silver hair was pulled back neatly, her eyes sharp as glass. In her hand she carried a slim black folder. The entire crowd went silent. Karen turned sneering. "And who are you supposed to be, another squatter?" Mom's voice was steady. "I'm his mother, and I'm a sitting judge for this district." The air changed. The laughter stopped. You could hear the wind ripple across the lake. Karen blinked, then laughed, a brittle cracking sound. "A judge. Please, anyone can say that. Where's your robe? Your gavel?" Mom opened the folder, holding up her official identification seal gleaming in the sunlight. "This is my jurisdiction, Ms. Morgan, and I'm very familiar with the limits of your HOA. Karen's smirk wavered. "You don't know what you're talking about. This property's within our boundaries. We voted on it." Mom tilted her head, almost pitying her. "You can't vote yourself authority you don't have. The county records are clear. Your boundary ends at mile marker 14. This cabin sits at 17. That means every citation you've issued is null and void." The board members shifted, whispering. One muttered, "She's right." Another started backing away. Mom stepped closer. "You've trespassed on private property, issued fraudulent documents, and attempted extortion. If I chose, I could have law enforcement here right now to take your entire board into custody. Is that what you want?" Karen stammered. You can't." "Yes, I can." Mom cut in, her voice like steel. "And the more you speak, the deeper you dig your hole. My advice: walk away now before this becomes more than humiliation." Silence. Even the birds stopped singing. Karen's hands trembled around her clipboard. She looked around for support, but her board wouldn't meet her eyes. Finally she shouted, "This isn't over," but everyone knew it was. She turned, stomped to her SUV, and slammed the door so hard the horn blared. One by one the other cars followed, peeling out down the dirt road. The neighbors erupted, clapping, cheering, some even chanting, "Judge Mom! Judge Mom!" Mom turned to me, calm as ever. "That's how you deal with bullies, not with anger, with law." I nodded, chest tight with pride. She'd done what no one else could. She ended it without shouting, without fear. Karen never came back. Word spread fast through the community. The videos went viral, clips of my mom flashing her badge, the HOA retreating like a defeated army. For the first time, people started standing up, sharing stories of their own fines and harassment. The so-called queen of the HOA had been dethroned by the one thing she couldn't intimidate: truth. I still sit on that porch most evenings, coffee in hand, listening to the quiet she tried to take from us. The lake reflects the sky, the trees sway like nothing ever happened, but I remember. Because here's what I learned. Power isn't real unless you let it scare you. The moment you stand firm with truth, with calm, with courage, bullies crumble. And sometimes the loudest sound of justice is silence after a storm.